When I was a teenager living with my dad in the 1980s, we had a little shack in our backyard that served as a storage unit. This is where most of the possessions of my youth went after I had outgrown them. After I moved out on my own and left my hometown, many of my collectibles and childhood memories from the 1970s up until the late 90s ended up in boxes in the shed on my dad's property. Of all the things I kept in storage, there was one box in particular that held some of my most treasured items and memories. It was a white wooden box with my name stenciled on the top that was built for me by my grandfather when I was around 10 years old. In my teen years, this box held my meager comic book collection, and eventually, of course, my friends and I started drawing and writing weird stuff all over it. Later, it became my storage box for random memories and treasured items. By the late 90s, it went permanently into the shed on my dad's property, where it remained unopened for about 20 years. Then, in the winter of 2019, I was working on a video for YouTube about one of my high school binders, and I traveled back to the old shed to see if I could find it. The shed was now falling apart and had basically become a home for birds and rodents. After some digging, I came across the old box my grandfather had built for me, and inside was the binder I was searching for, still in perfect condition. Soon after this, I moved everything out of the dilapidated old shack and into the safety of a proper storage space. But besides grabbing the binder I needed for my video, I never took the time to fully explore what was inside my forgotten box of memories and collectibles. So now you and I will open it up together and sift through the contents for the first time in nearly 22 years. During our exploration, I'll decode some of my weird teenage art and writings and give you some backstories on some of my souvenirs and collectibles with the aid of my own personal photos and home video clips from the time.
Although most of the content in this video falls firmly into the PG-13 ratings category, some portions have been censored so as not to anger the YouTube algorithm gods.
Here is my childhood box as it looks today, fresh out of storage. As you can see, this was written and carved on a lot by my friends and I. Being that we were 1980s teenage metalheads, this box is of course spattered with the names of rock bands from the era. Mostly Motley Crue because they were my ultimate favorite as a kid. Nothing that I owned as a teen would be complete without at least one Jason Voorhees scrawled on it. You may notice that there's a lot of love for someone named Tina scrawled on here. Tina was my first big crush when I entered high school. Eventually I asked her out and we were a couple for maybe 2 weeks. Our relationship was totally innocent and basically consisted of us passing silly notes to each other at school and talking on the phone every night. I think we kissed twice, maybe. Alright then, let's open this thing up and see what kind of secrets it contains. Oh yeah, before we get into this, there will probably be lots of things in here that are connected in some kind of way to other videos already on my channel. I'll put links in the description below to any videos that I end up referencing should you want to go down the rabbit hole. More Motley Crue and more love for Tina. Here's me and my dog Wampus. He was a total free spirit that would run all over our town getting into so much trouble. A few times he even randomly showed up at my school. Like one day in the 8th grade, he just goes running down the hall past my classroom with our principal chasing after him trying to get him out of the building. It was a surreal moment. The logo for the band I was in when I was a teen called Skeleton Crew. Vushi lurks next to a drawing of Jason Voorhees. I feel like we need a quick explanation of the word Vushi. When I was about 10 years old, my dad took me to see the movie Friday the 13th at our local drive-in theater. Over the next couple of years, I saw Part 2 and Part 3 and became obsessed with Jason Voorhees. The problem was I had mistakenly remembered his name as Jason Vushi. So whenever I talked about the films with my friends that hadn't seen them yet, I kept getting the killer's name wrong. And in turn, they also got the name wrong. Without the internet or any copies of the movies to correct us, this continued for at least a year before we finally figured it out. So then we just thought it was funny and kept referring to him as Vushi as our own inside joke.
Jason Vushi lurks.
Say what?
Say Vushi.
Vushi? What's that?
Vushi with a V.
Vushi.
And a fucking Vushi's in the background. This isn't fair.
Eventually, though, the word Vushi morphed into encompassing anything that had to do with creeping through the woods, like Jason, or sneaking around in any kind of way. An example might be, I'm gonna Vushi around the back of the house and I'll meet you there. Or cops showed up at the party last night, but we vooshied out the window and got away. If you saw my binder flip through video, then you probably recognize this. I got this towel when I was 7 years old. My dad took me to see the original movie on opening weekend when I was 6. We stood in line all day, saw the movie, then went out, got back in line, and watched it again. Like most kids my age, I was instantly obsessed with all things Star Wars. In the 1990s, I played in a band called Circle of Fear, and this was our first recording. We released it on CD and cassette in 1994. I'm actually doing another video about the making of this album, so I won't get into this. If you want to listen to it though, there's a link below. In 1997, my friends and I recorded this thrash metal album under the name SMF with a mentally disabled man who called himself the Heavy Metal Warrior. This is another one I'll be doing a video about, so we'll move on. Link below if you want to listen to it. Whoa, I forgot I even made these. These are little stickers of the SMF band members. The Heavy Metal Warrior on vocals, Legion on bass, that was me on drums, LEN, get it? Buster T. Hyman on guitar, some assorted logos, cool. Photos of my friends Scott and Han. My 9th grade and 12th grade annuals. 9th grade, and as with everything else I owned, nothing was safe from being vooshied. I cut my own hair that year, and the result was absolutely disastrous. That year, for a homecoming lip sync competition, my friends and I were Motley Crue. The video of our performance is on my channel if you'd like to see it. '12th grade, and as you can see, I still hadn't matured past the Jason Voorhees obsession. Some Valentines. How thoughtful. That's sweet. Dear God. Oh. Some random papers. One of my attempts at getting my driver's license. I believe I failed like 5 times. I'd just get so nervous and totally blow it. What do we have here? Well, Len, this is it. I'm sick of all your crap. If you don't cut it out, I'm gonna ram your head up your... Oh. This girl was definitely not very pleased with my work. But I like that she still signed it love and fucking excellent sex or else. Good one. Oh yeah, the day my bestie Scott got me busted for 3rd-degree possession of stolen property. Nice. Here's the story. One day when we were seniors in high school, my friend Scott decided after lunch that he wanted to skip the rest of the day. So he stole a random BMX bike from the school's bike rack and rode it to my house, where he left it in my backyard and then caught a bus home. The bike sat back there for a week or so, and I didn't think anything of it because my friends left their bikes in my yard all the time. Then one day a very upset woman showed up at my door claiming her son's stolen bike was sitting in my yard. I was like, I had no idea whose bike that was. Someone left it here, so go ahead and take it if it's yours.
Is your dad around? Do I need to call your parents? Why do you even lie about it?
A couple days after that, the police came to my house to ask me questions about it. Everything seemed cool until a few weeks later when suddenly, out of nowhere, I got a certified letter in the mail with a ticket charging me with 3rd-degree possession of stolen property.
127.
October 3rd, 1989. Tomorrow I have to go to court, and it really blows over possession of stolen property. Scott stole a bike like a smart guy that he is, so it was found on my property and all that. But I talked to an attorney today, so I have an attorney, so I have a partial life.
I ended up pleading guilty and paying a $100 fine, which Scott, now my roommate, refused to help me pay for. I'm pretty sure he still owes me $100 for this bullshit. Okay, what do we have here? No return address. That's always a bad sign. 1987. I saw you at the David Lee Roth concert December 10th. That was my birthday. That is true, I was there. Saw you at the Motley Crue concert in '85. You had a camera. That is also true. This is weird. My house. For some reason I felt the need to do a layout of what my house looks like. There was where my dog Wampus slept under the bed. Love it. A poem from an anonymous person. This is creepy. Hot teas, cool looks. Okay. A letter I wrote to my friend Derek that I never sent. That is a self-portrait. It's kind of accurate for 8th grade me. We can do the dog? A note from my dad letting me leave school early, and that was on my birthday. A drawing of my whole neighborhood. Why would I do stuff like this? I don't really know. Nonsense. I took this photo of my backyard from a tree that I used to like to climb all the time. There's Scott. Let's have a look. And it's scary and creepy. And it's from Dewshine and Star. Dewshine? Here's a vintage Motley Crue painter's cap I used to wear quite often. I constantly got accused of being a Satanist because of the pentagrams. Ozzy Osbourne with Motley Crue opening was my first real concert experience, and I got this shirt from a bootlegger outside the show for $10. I'm sad it's in such bad condition. Our little town used to have a festival every year in June called Hadlock Days. There were stands selling random stuff, and I nearly lost my mind in 1984 when I found these for sale at one of the stands. I bought as many as I could afford, which wasn't much. They also had these kick-ass puffy stickers, which I got a few packs of. Bunch of random Crue photos and stuff. Here's the merchandise order form I got from the Motley Crue fan club after I sent them a letter. I got this shirt at the carnival during the Rhododendron Festival in Port Townsend in 1985. I got this shirt at the Motley Crue show that was mentioned in the creepy stalker letter earlier in this video. In November of 1985, my dad loaded myself and 3 of my best friends into his giant green Oldsmobile and drove us to the Tacoma Dome in Tacoma, Washington to see Motley Crue. I can't even express the level of excitement I was feeling that day. My dad even helped me sneak a camera into the show so I could take some pictures. Unfortunately, it didn't take very good photos, and only a handful even turned out because it was too dark. This is embarrassing, but I was so excited about this show that when Motley Crue hit the stage, I actually started crying. For real, I literally couldn't help myself. I never told any of my friends, and luckily it was dark so none of them saw me, or I would have never heard the end of it. I bet they were secretly crying too, though. This is a cheesy little plastic remake of the Lament configuration, otherwise known as the Hellraiser puzzle box from the movie Hellraiser. Let's see what kind of treasures are lurking in here. A bracelet, an eyeball, and a bunch of pins from the 1980s. I used to wear a gaggle of bracelets, and intertwined in all of them was a collection of rings from girls. It looks like this saw the remains of them. I got this tooth earring because Vince Neil from Motley Crue wore one. He also cruised visors a lot, so sometimes I'd try to pull the whole look off, but the effect was maybe not quite as cool. Oh wow, this was the key to my weird outside bedroom that I had when I was 19 years old. This hung around my neck for years. I'll let this precious collectible go for $1,500. DM me and it's yours. Serious inquiries only. In 1989 and 1990, when my 3 friends and I lived together and had a band together, these notebooks sat around in our house and would be where we'd leave notes to each other and write or draw all kinds of random stuff. Some notes and stuff. Lots of random drawings throughout these. Here's a nice little note to me from my roommate Scott. Back in the days before cell phones, access to the actual phone could sometimes become an issue, as you see here. Here are some interesting drawings. Okay, so my friends and I were basically into making memes of situations and of each other before memes were ever a thing. They would usually be in the form of drawings like these, but sometimes they might take other forms. We were basically always on the lookout for anyone to do anything that was funny to us, and then turn it into memes to fuck with each other endlessly and ruthlessly. Here we see I had targeted Scott for a whole series of illustrations. Here's me being ridiculed for something. Me again on the back. These are pretty good. Here's Derek and I. Here's Han. I'm not sure what's happening here, but come on, Scott didn't really look like that, did he? I mean, really?
Come on. We'll see the real side of Scott.
Open.
I'm just playing, Scotty. You know I love you. This appears to be some notes I was taking the second time I ever got drunk. I didn't have a camera, so I guess I had to document it somehow. Oh my god, the Jlr Transcripts. I thought these were lost forever. Now this is a story that I must share with you. In 1989, when my friends and I were sharing a house and playing in a band together, we'd have people over hanging out constantly, and we had lots of parties with a lot of random people we didn't know coming through. There was one random guy who was maybe 10 years older than us that started hanging out during this period that we referred to simply as JLR. The short story of why we called him JLR is that upon meeting him, we mistakenly thought those were the initials of his full name. They were not, but JLR just stuck as his identifier for us. One night when we happened to have a video camera, a few of us were in our local store dropping off some film to be processed, and we ran into JLR. On our way out of the store, my friend Derek, who was carrying the video camera, got into a conversation with him in the parking lot and stayed behind while the rest of us walked home. During their conversation, the topic turned to JLR's methods for hooking up with women. Now, we had only been around this dude a few times at this point, and we didn't really know him. So the offering up of this information immediately struck Derek as odd. Did Derek get uncomfortable and politely bow out of the conversation? Of course not. Instead, he quietly covered the recording indicator light and turned the camera on, then ever so gently eased the lens and microphone in JLR's direction, trying to catch as much of the conversation as possible. Derek said very little as JLR broke down his hookup methods, gave Derek some unsolicited dating advice, then moved into reciting some of his own poetry and lyrics. For real. This went on for a full 15 minutes before Derek finally turned the camera off, fearing he might get caught. Derek came running home, overflowing with excitement at what he had captured on tape, and we watched it over and over again. Within weeks, we all had it memorized from start to finish, and it was on continuous rotation whenever random friends were over smoking weed or hanging out. One night when we were all hanging out watching it for the 1,000,000th time, I actually transcribed the entire thing onto paper, with all of Derek's parts highlighted in pink. JLR eventually found out about the video, and we had a falling out over it for about a year or so until we ran into him randomly somewhere and apologized. Then we were all cool again. In the first month or so after the video was recorded though, during the period when we were still obsessed with it, we, of course, just had to write a joke song about it. I mean, there were so many quotable parts in the video, the whole situation was just begging for its own song. It was recorded later as a funny demo with a drum machine, but we never played it for anyone or performed it live in any bands. We kept it in the vault as our own little inside joke song. I'll never post the whole thing online, but here's a small sample. First with a couple of his quotes from the video, then how they fit into the song.
Have him do a body rub. Have him start playing with your goodies from behind. Candlelight works marvelously. Okay, candlelight creates almost a dreamlike aura.
I can't even explain what was running through my mind. We have to give you a back rub, play your goodies from behind. It's just a candlelight creates a dreamlike aura. He's gonna floor ya, JLR.
Here's an original Lickety Split demo tape from 1989. Lickety Split was a band from our area that played a mix of heavy metal and party rock covers and their own original songs. They were kind of like local legends, and they had an actual manufactured, professional-looking cassette tape with a pretty killer-sounding recording, which, at the time, I didn't even know a band could do without a full-on record label supporting them. To be honest, I was totally jealous of these guys because they were doing everything I wished our band was doing, but we just weren't there yet. They had a tape of their own music, they got paying gigs at local bars, they even had screen-printed t-shirts. When our band Skeleton Crew played our very first show, 3 of the members from Lickety Split showed up and we were backstage kinda freaking out about it.
Dude, the entire group of Lickety Split's here.
Lickety Split, here.
No, yeah, the whole group, they're in there right now.
Just for fun, we actually kind of stalked them a little bit. We'd sneak up, or should I say bushi, outside their practice space to secretly listen to them rehearse, or sometimes sit outside the bar before we were 21 to listen to their set. Or sometimes we'd just straight up stalk them if we saw them out around town, kind of like this.
Derek Mitchell, Ace Reporter. What's up, dude?
Is that thing really going?
Yeah.
What did you just do?
I just got the drummer for Lickety Split.
Just a couple weeks after my 21st birthday, Lickety Split was my very first bar show experience. If you want to listen to this cassette, there's a link below. Okay, what do we have here? No return address, so we know something's weird. Postmarked June of 1995. A tape. Bunch of stuff. Oh God. This is already a lot. This is what I'm most interested in. We need to play this right now.
You know what? I think you should squirtle all over us. Never mind, I don't think you should squirtle all over us. Just me, okay? And then you can, you're sharing. Can you like rub yourself all over us?
Whatever you like.
Whatever you like. Whatever you want.
Oh my God, okay, that was frightening. Here's all of my other high school and junior high binders, besides the one I already did a video of. 11th grade, 10th grade, 9th grade, 8th grade, and 7th grade. I'm going to eventually be doing separate videos of all of these, so we'll just move on from this. This was sort of a joke music project my friend Derek and I did in 1989. I'm going to do a full video about this later, so we'll skip it for now. Oh my God, my Rainier shirt is still alive! Sorta. This was one of my favorite shirts when I was a kid in the 1980s. This was a popular brand of beer in the Pacific Northwest. It's still around, but it's not brewed here anymore. Too bad this shirt is so small and destroyed because I'd love to rock this. In fact, I think I'm gonna try it on right now just to see how it looks. Oh my God. Okay, enough of that. Some headbands I got at a few different Motley Crue concerts in the 80s. Motley Crue postcards and stuff. And some Rolling Stones postcards. These are kind of funny. When I was in the 8th grade, my friends and I entered a lip sync competition as Motley Crue. There were lip sync competitions every year at our school, in case this is sounding like an ongoing theme. Anyway, we made our costumes and one of the guitars ourselves, and I made these all-access passes to give to everyone that was backstage helping us. We ended up taking 2nd place, which won us $5 to split between the 4 of us. I mean, we literally got $1.25 each. We were so bummed. Again, no return address, just the word Angel. The date is 1985. Oh my. Let's pause for a moment. Okay, so basically this is what long-distance sexting looked like in the olden days before cell phones and messaging apps. An envelope with a letter and a bunch of Polaroids. I did run into this girl once like 5 years later, and if I remember correctly, she told me she had been in a Bon Jovi music video, which I thought was pretty cool. Motley Crue bandanas I got at concerts. This is a one-of-a-kind CD that I made in 1997. In the late 90s, I had a friend named Kit who sometimes wrote reviews for electronics magazines, who has since passed away. In 1997, he was sent one of the first standalone CD burners to review, and he let me borrow it for a few days. Because this technology was so new, I had to travel 3 hours into the city to find a place that sold recordable compact discs. This one blank disc cost me, I kid you not, $35. $35 for one disc. So I got it, and I made this one CD of music and other stuff like prank phone calls and whatnot that I had done over the years. All of the artwork was done super old school cut and paste style with glue and paper and then put together on a photocopy machine because I didn't have a computer in those days. On the cover is this cool old dude that used to wander around my hometown named Russell Lee. You can see here that this includes the aforementioned Jlr song in its entirety. Also some stuff from those other old cassettes I showed you earlier. Much like the Wu-Tang Clan CD, this is the only copy in the entire world. They sold theirs for like $2 million if I remember right, so I don't know. I guess I could let this go for, $500,000. I think that sounds like a good deal, but the buyer will have to sign a contract saying they won't upload certain stuff that I don't want online. So hit me up. Looks like I rented National Lampoon's European Vacation on VHS. I'm guessing this was probably in 1986. A coupon for Port Townsend's Spring Carnival in 1987. Pretty sure that was the year I threw up an entire McDonald's 20-piece chicken McNugget meal after riding the zipper. Right in front of a bunch of girls, too. It's devastating. Here's an unused extra ticket to the Poison Flesh and Blood tour. I was supposed to sell it at the show, but I was too eager to get inside, so I just kept it. Some original flyers for the band I was in the 1990s called Circle of Fear. I did all of the artwork for our band-related stuff. These were all made on photocopy machines with my original drawings and stuff cut out of magazines. I didn't have a computer back then, so there was no photoshopping. Just paper, pens, glue sticks, and the photocopy machine at the local grocery store for 5 cents per copy. I always put 2 flyers on each page and then cut the copied pages in half so we'd get 2 flyers for the price of 1 copy. Fun times. Here's a photo of me and my friend Shane during a lip sync competition when we were in the 12th grade. I sure do wish I still had these pants. An autographed photo of Tommy Lee. Not sure where I got this or who the person was that he made it out to. I'd be a lot more excited about this if it was made out to me, damn it. An all-access pass to a 1991 Cult show. Here's an unused pass from Nirvana's 1991 Nevermind tour. Not sure where I got these because I didn't go to either of these shows. Pretty cool collectibles though. Another sketchbook from the late 80s. Nothing too spectacular in this. Although here's a pretty great drawing that someone did of me. Something I used to do a lot as a kid was mashups of comic characters meeting Jason Voorhees. Then I'd have the characters killed off by Jason one by one. So dorky. Oh, look at this. It's Oleo Keith. I have to tell you about him. Keith was this eccentric dude that Derek and I met randomly and then introduced him to all of our friends. When we first met him, he told us his nickname was Oleo. By the time we met him, progressive mental illness had left him highly medicated and unable to work. So he basically sat in his apartment all day and night listening to music, smoking cigarettes, and drinking wine. Oh, and coffee. Dude had a real serious coffee addiction.
Let's keep in mind that Keith is addicted to coffee. So let's just see if he... Oh, well, it looks like he has some coffee here today.
Hey, does Keith have any coffee? Want a cup of coffee?
I don't know. I can't find any. I've been looking. I don't know, dude. I was looking everywhere for the coffee, and I can't seem to find any. So let's just keep that in mind.
Dude, get the bird.
At one point in the 1970s, he had been a songwriter, and he gave us one of his demo recordings, which we actually really liked.
Though I'm not, you're not sorry for all the times I have tried.
Sometimes we would go to his place and ask him to sing one of his old songs for us, like this catchy little number featuring some pretty cringy lyrics.
Young girl, you know I need you so.
Oh, yeah.
Young girl, I wanna let you.
Look, it was the 1970s when he wrote it. A lot of pop music was creepy back then. Unfortunately, Keith's mental health continued to decline, and within a few years, he was so medicated I was getting messages from him on my answering machine that sounded like this.
Hey, Len, this is Keith. Calling in the city, calling back.
I don't know whatever became of Ole O'Keefe, but everybody loved him and we always had fun hanging out with him. Oh, so here's an interesting little drawing. When I was 17 years old, I got a terrible case of crabs, and I'm not talking about seafood. This is a sketch of the box of medicine I had to buy to get rid of the little bastards. Oh yes, Alien. When I was 8 years old, my dad took me to see the movie Alien, and it shook me to the core. Like, this movie kind of changed my life. I was absolutely terrified, but also mesmerized. I got this book when I was in the 3rd grade, and I used to secretly bring it to school, and kids would crowd around me on the bus and the playground to look at the pages of the infamous chestburster scene. The only pages I really cared about, though, were the ones featuring Sigourney Weaver in her underwear. I used to have the original 1979 Kenner Alien action figure, which ended up being recalled because parents thought it was too scary for children. Really wish I still had it today. My dad and I in the 1970s. I'm looking pretty bummed about this photo shoot. Here's a photo of my mom and me. This photo has an interesting story that's half funny and half sad. So my mom left my dad shortly after I was born because my dad was basically a raging alcoholic. I moved in with my grandparents and my mom left the state, so I had no contact with her and no memory of her at all. When I was 7 years old, I moved in with my dad, who was sharing a place with my aunt and uncle and their kids. My uncle was always kind of a joker, and he liked to pull little pranks on me pretty much from the moment I was able to walk, as you can see here. So one day, when I was 7 years old, he found this photo in a box of stuff, gave it to me, and explained that this was a photo of my mom and I. This was literally the first photo I'd ever seen of my mother. But notice how her face looks a little blurry in this picture because she had moved her head right when it was taken, and the look on her face appears a little angry. Well, my uncle goes on to tell me that the reason her face is blurry and scary looking is because she was a real-life witch, so she couldn't take normal photos, and that she was out there in the world somewhere right now flying on a broom and practicing witchcraft. At the end of all of this, he failed to mention he was joking and said I could keep the picture. So until I was probably 10 or 11 years old, I literally believed my mother was a terrifying witch. No one in my family ever talked about her, so I never got any other information. When I was 15, word got to my family that she had died of a drug overdose. Only we didn't know that this was a case of mistaken identity, and she was actually still alive. Then when I was 18 years old, she resurfaced and reached out to me, and I eventually met her for the first time in 1990 on the day of my 20th birthday. In the years that followed, we became very close, and to this day, we still laugh about the witch story. Once again, no return address. Dearest Len, I've been watching you from afar for quite some time. What do we have here? I suspected you might be the father of our child? Promo poster I made for the SMF cassette I showed you earlier in this video. White Zombie promo 7-inch. So cool. I got this mirror at the Spring Carnival in Port Townsend when I was in the 7th grade. It used to hang in my bedroom, and fun fact, when my dad was still drinking and using, he'd sometimes come into my room in the middle of the night when there was a party going on at our house and steal this off of my wall so that they could do coke off of it. I'm willing to bet that if you took this frame apart, you'd find some vintage 1980s cocaine down inside here. My book about me. Here's where you could write me a letter when I was 6 years old. An idea I had when I was a teenager for a mechanical arm that I could wear while playing bass. Many years later in the 1990s, I was singing in a band and I actually made one out of a bunch of random junk from a thrift store and some lights from a Christmas sweater. It actually looks surprisingly good. A small blacklight painting of Jason I did to put in my bedroom. My bedroom in my teen years was covered in blacklight posters, many of which I painted myself. Link to a video of it below. Vintage flyer and t-shirt from the band Lickety Split I talked about earlier in this video. Here's a comic book I made when I was 11 years old called Barbarians of the Block. Although, as you can see, my spelling wasn't super on point. Barbarins of the Block? Kids riding around on BMXs, getting into thrilling adventures, solving crimes and stuff. Pretty much everything I wanted my 11-year-old life to be like. Collector's item. Only one issue ever produced. Oh damn! Check this out. Original flyers from the mid-1980s when Poison was still just a club band playing on the Sunset Strip. I have a friend who was a teenager there at that time. She hung out with them some and gave me these original flyers. Ooh, here they were shooting the video for Cry Tough. I love that video. Some more flyers that I grabbed when my friends and I were homeless and hanging around the strip in 1991.
Hey, what's up, dude?
Not much, dude. Look at this. And this is the Sunset Strip.
Okay, what we got here?
And this is
the whiskey. Where are we?
Here.
Dude, it looks huge from here, dude. Look. All right.
Great time, real fast there.
Okay.
Link to that video below. Here's a show I wish I would have gone to. A free pass to see the Stone Temple Pilots at the OK Hotel in Seattle in 1992. At the time, I was like, meh, I don't want to travel all the way there to see a wannabe grunge band. I did go to this show, though, Insane Clown Posse at Rock Candy in Seattle. I got drenched head to toe with Faygo and had to hitchhike 60 miles back home afterwards. The rest of these are just random glam metal flyers and whatnot. Wars of the Galaxy was a comic book I made when I was about 9 years old. Only 2 issues ever created, highly sought after by comic collectors around the world. This was a one-off fake rap band my friend Jared and I did in the 1990s. There's a link to our one and only song and music video below. I'm going to be doing a whole video about this later, so moving on. Studded bracelet that I got when I was in the 7th grade to show everyone that I was indeed a metalhead. Cheesy 1970s X-ray glasses. If you were a kid reading comics in the 1970s and early 80s, then you remember this ad. Ordered a pair when I was 8 years old and this is what arrived in the mail. I was so bummed! Star Wars folder I used in the 2nd grade. I plastered the inside with Star Wars stickers, of course. Some original t-shirts from the band I was in the 1990s. This was the first one we ever made, and I did all of the artwork for these. This one was always my favorite. The logo on the front glows in the dark. On the back is a drawing I did of this local guy, Jerry McKay, as a Terminator-style robot. Jerry McKay was this cool old dude that we used to see walking around downtown Port Townsend that I had become friends with. I'm pretty sure he passed away around the time we printed these shirts, because I never saw him again after this. I really wish I could have shown him these shirts. Those first two shirts we had professionally printed, but all of the rest of these I screen printed myself in my dad's tool shed. It was a lot cheaper doing it that way, but it took a lot of time. Heavy gravel is what we called our genre of music as a play on the term grunge. Most everyone who played in rock bands in the Pacific Northwest in the 1990s hated the term grunge, so it got made fun of a lot by musicians.
And then in like big letters above it, it said grunge.
Couple of random drawings. This is an illustration I did when I was about 13 years old, showing what I thought my house was going to look like when I turned 18 and moved out on my own. It never got quite that bad in real life, but the garbage definitely piled up. This is kind of fun. Who is lurking under Jason Voorhees' mask? Why, it's Mick Mars of Motley Crue, of course. Motley Crue Special Edition magazine from the 80s. This is funny. Here's a picture of me in 1990 sitting on this same box looking at this exact same page in this magazine. What a trip. Motley Crue program from the Theater of Pain tour. There's a Kiss program from the 1979 Dynasty tour. I didn't go to this, my friend Han did, and he traded me something for it. In 1991, in my hometown of Hadlock, there was a big uproar about young people hanging around in parking lots of businesses.
Big campers and things. This is becoming quite the turnout.
Get that motherfucker away from me. Hi, sweetie.
Hi.
Sarah. Yeah, that's right.
You should do something about this, dude.
I have her in English.
What's funny is a lot of these people now have kids that are nearly as old or older than most of the people in this picture. Look at these hoodlums. Here's me. In 1993, it was still a problem, but now it had moved next door to Port Townsend and was scaring away the tourists. Here's me frightening away some tourists. Imagine that, young people just hanging out and socializing. It was a real concern. Well, they got their way, and now everybody's inside staring at their devices. Funny how that is. Junior high progress report. I was kicking ass. Beastie Boys tour program from 1987. I don't know where or how I acquired this, but I did not go to this concert. Wish I did, though. A 1981 Empire Strikes Back calendar. Nerd. Some old Rocket magazines. The Rocket was a free bi-weekly music magazine from Seattle that went out of business in 2000. Here's Metallica on the cover in 1988. Soundgarden 1990. Mother Love Bone when Andy Wood died in 1990. Nirvana, October of 91 when they were first about to explode. Mudhoney 92. Alice in Chains in 92. 1994 when Kurt Cobain died. The cardboard backs to the packaging from the Star Wars action figures I collected when I was a kid. There are holes cut in these because if you collected enough proof of purchases from the packaging, you could send them in to get this Boba Fett figure. Most of these were purchased at the local Western Auto store for $2.49. These were my dad's from when he was a teenager trying to learn how to play guitar in the 1960s. Pretty cool. my Star Wars action figure collector's case from the 1970s, pristine condition with all of the little weapons still intact. I was a weird kid in that I never played with these at all. Seriously. This was a major frustration to any of my friends who came over to play because I wouldn't let anyone touch these. I was actually super bummed about this Han Solo figure. Originally he came with a smaller head, then later they changed it so he had a larger head. I was only allowed to get a new figure like maybe once a month or so I missed out on the small head version before they changed it. Stupid big head. Never played with. So nerdy. Well, it looks like that's everything in my box of treasures. Hope you enjoyed exploring this with me. But what will become of it now? Well, much like the famous scene at the ending of Raiders of the Lost Ark, this box is far too powerful and contains too many secrets to be out in the world. I will now return it to its hiding place to be locked away forever so that no human can use its powers for evil. My hope is that maybe someday, when humankind has become more evolved, it will be discovered again and its powers may be used for good. And until then,